Hello everyone, welcome back. So we left off right here where I was debugging why I was getting an array out of bounds exception. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, it's actually because of this here semicolon. I was going to take the time and go through debugging it and figuring out where it was and why it was doing that, but it was such a simple mistype that I feel like it would almost be a waste of time showing you guys how to go through and profile for just that. I actually want to change the way that we're going to do this. I'm not going to get into culling a specific value off of an array right now. I feel like that might also be a bit of a waste of time. So we're going to get rid of faults and all mentions of them. If you guys want to continue, that will work. It's just I want to focus more on what I'm trying to get across here. So let's change this to return an array of integers and return my numbers, which is our array inside the function. Okay, and so that's all set. And right. Okay, so now that we have this all set up, we can give this a run, and then I'm going to take some time and talk about what's happening here. So you'll notice that we still do throw a number format exception. That's what we want to have happen. That makes sense. That's fine. Okay. So let me get rid of that get message because that doesn't really help us. So let's run this again just so we have fresh output. Okay, so we throw a number format exception before any outputting happens. That's because we hit this number format exception when the string abc123 tries to get parsed through Integer.parseint. abc123 is not something that can be easily converted to that. Now, let's say we change another one of these to like from 301 to BABA. The expected behavior will be that we end up with another null on the end. And that 301 will then go from 17 to 51. So if we give that a run, you'll notice that we go from 17 to 51, and then we have two nulls on the end. And again, it's throwing number format exceptions, that's fine. If we don't want to see the exceptions, we can always just remove the e.print stack trace. But it's usually a good idea to have some kind of debug in there. Since we know that it's going to throw a number format exception, we don't really need it. It's still just a good habit to get into. So let's just do a quick step through of the entire program before I wrap this one up. So we start off by making a string. The string has 15 members to it, each one of them being a string. We make an array the same size. If we wanted to, I suppose that we could just do like this and go my strings.length, and it's the same thing at that point. I just counted because I don't know, I felt like it. We then pass basically everything into our method. And so what we do is we're going to set my numbers equal to what's returned by this method. So we pass in my strings, my numbers, which are the arrays that we've just created, and then we pass in two zeros, which are our counters. This basically just saves me one line or two lines of code where I would do something like int string counter blah 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 equals 0. And I could do that, but then when I went to pass back in to this method, I would lose my counter. Although I shouldn't say it quite like that, there are other ways to do it where I wouldn't, but we're not talking about that right now. This was just the easiest way that came to mind. So we set up a try catch, and the try catch, the try specifically is a for statement. And that for statement is going to loop through our array of strings, and for each string in the array of strings, my numbers using the array index is going to try to parse the int inside of string. If it's successful, number counter will increment and string counter will increment. If it's unsuccessful, it will skip from here, from trying this line, to our catch. Our catch will then catch it. The exception that's thrown will be a number format exception, and we'll have this pass recursively back into itself, first incrementing string counter, meaning if this screws up, no matter what happens, string counter is going to get increased. So the next time it doesn't hit ABC, 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 ABC. So here's an example of what would happen if we remove that plus plus from string counter. So we'll give that a run. We'll come down here and you'll notice that it has thrown quite a bit of a loop. You know, I think I have, I don't know, 1,000 lines of just, you know, stack overflow and number format exceptions. And that's because it keeps trying this, you know, BABA or ABC123 over and over and over again until it runs itself out of memory. So having that in there means that once it hits something it can't handle, it skips it. From there, once it's no longer using this for loop and it no longer hits a catch, it will come down here to this return my numbers, which is the name of our array. So the array then takes on, or well, this value for my numbers gets passed back into our main method. From there, we simply output it. And so that's a simple sort of try-catch. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking to themselves, you know, how did I know that Integer.parseint would throw a number format exception? And that's actually a really good question. So I will actually show you. So let's say I wanted to do another Integer.parseint. You'll notice that the Java doc comes up right next to it for parseint. And it says, you know, what it is, what it's expecting. So it's the method is expecting a string, it returns an int, and it throws a number format exception. So that means that when it throws a number format exception, you have to catch it somehow. And so that's the third sort of thing that happens there is throws. So again, you can look at the Java docs right here. So that's available to you. Same thing here. One other interesting thing before we cut this video off is there's also a bit of code called finally. So finally means that after we do a catch, we want to do one other thing. So basically we have this try code, and this try says, okay, do this for loop, we want to get that done. And then the catch says, okay, well, if there's this error or any error, if we set it up the right way, we want to do this. And then finally says, okay, after you catch something, do this with it. So a good example of a finally might just be system.out.println hello world, or just anything. You know, there's plenty of different ways that you can use a finally, and you'll notice that it's hit that 3 times. 2 for the string faults, and 1 for the time where it successfully exits the try. So that's how finally is used. In this case, we didn't need it at all. I just figured I would let you guys know what it does. So that is try, catch, finally, parsing numbers, data flow, recursive methods, the whole 9 yards. We can get more into this in later episodes. If there's any questions on this, please post below. This was a fairly difficult exercise for our first lesson, sort of blowing off the cobwebs. So I hope that you guys will join me again. I'm Damien, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.